Hey everybody, welcome back to Access Blockbusters Pod. This is episode 4. I am now officially one of your hosts, Access Blockbusters AB, and I'm super excited for today's episode. So, first of all, I know it's been a while since the last episode. I've been busy. There have been things going on, but I'm super excited that we are bringing back the podcast for the summer, and I'll kind of talk about that more in just a second. But before we get into anything else, I have some very exciting news, at least for me, I hope, and for you guys as well, that we actually have a co-host, and I'm super excited to bring him on to the podcast, and hopefully he'll be here for most of the summer. So, yeah, allow me to introduce. I'm just pumping him up so much and hyping him up so much. But let me introduce you guys to one of my good friends, CM, and yeah, I mean, so just really quickly, we're not going to be using our real names. That's a pending decision. I'm not sure what we're going to do, but for now, he's going to be CM, and we kind of thought it'd be funny to just change up whatever that stands for every single week. So unless you guys come up with something brilliant in the comments, which, by the way, make sure to comment down below. Then, yeah, this week he's going to be Caramel Macchiato, I guess, is what we decided on. So, anyways, all that out of the way. CM, thank you so much for being here. It's going to be super fun, I think. Thank you so much again.
Hello, no problem. Thank you very much for having me. And by the way, Caramel Macchiato is my real name.
Oh, okay, well...
Yeah, so I just want to make sure everyone knows that.
Okay, well, so the name
I've
been...
You can address me as Mr. Macchiato.
Okay, great. That's exactly what I was planning on doing. Yeah, we didn't... That wasn't the name that I've been calling him for the past few years, but that's all right. We all have secret identities.
It's all right, you can start now.
Yeah, all right, Mr. Macchiato and Access Blockbusters, what a pair. What a pair. Anyways, yeah, so I think it's going to be super fun, and that allows me to talk about, for just a second, our plans for the channel for this summer. So things are kind of getting busy for me, and I love making the YouTube videos, but they do take a lot of time, and I do want to make them the best I can for you guys. And so because of that, I think starting in a couple weeks, so the podcast will be continuing for the next few weeks, every Friday. They'll be recorded. This is right now Thursday morning, and they're going to be uploaded every Friday. And they should be continuing on for the rest of the summer. And those will sort of take the place of the main videos, the main weekly videos, as I've been trying to post, once a week. This will kind of be the not the placeholder. I don't want to say placeholder, but sort of it'll take the place of the main weekly video. And what we're going to be doing now in the podcasts is really just recapping what happens the previous week in terms of movies and TV and blockbusters and all that sort of stuff. So we'll be talking about trailers and release dates and all that sort of stuff this week with my good host, Mr. Macchiato, co-host, and next week, who knows what he's going to be. But yeah, that's basically the plan for the podcast for the summer. And so in order to make it a little bit more interactive with you guys, I hope that you guys saw this on my YouTube channel, but I posted a video about this Google form. And what you can do on the Google form, the link will always be in the descriptions of the videos and in the comments probably as well, is you can submit topics and questions. And we actually have topics and questions from you guys for this week as well. So thank you guys so much for submitting those. And yeah, this is your opportunity to, interact with the podcast. And of course, you guys will get a shout out as well with whatever name that you want to be shouted out as long as it's appropriate, obviously, unlike Caramel Macchiato, which we did not discuss very long before this podcast. So thank you for that. And yeah, so that's basically all that's going to happen. And so to kick off this week's episode, I thought I would take some main topics from the crew, the Access Blockbusters crew, and just sort of talk about what you guys want to talk about from this past week, or in at least, present day current movie news. And that's what really the main topics are for. So without further ado, let's get into some of these topics. So first of all, AQ, thank you so much for submitting a topic. We actually thought that your topic would be better suited as a question for the Q&A section. We'll get to that in a little bit. So just know that we moved your topic to a question, but we will absolutely take some time to answer it. All right, and so then the next topic that we got from the Google form is from Four Brothers Films, and he wants to know, will Space Jam 2: A New Legacy be any good? What are your thoughts? So Sam, I guess Caramel Macchiato, I'll kick it over to you. I mean, have you seen the trailers for Space Jam 2? Are you excited all for it? I mean, I've seen a couple trailers, and I don't have too much nostalgia for the first film. I think I've seen bits and pieces of it. So, yeah, I mean, have you seen the trailers? You excited all for it? You gonna see it? What do you think?
Yes, I have seen the trailers. In fact, when I went to go watch F9,
Oh,
and
we'll get into that one.
yeah, we will. And In the Heights recently, I got a Space Jam trailer in front of both of those, and every time my reaction is always, "Oh my God, this movie!"
Yeah.
And I think Space Jam 2 will be absolutely legendary. I mean, who doesn't want to see LeBron James teaming up with Bugs Bunny and just taking down Don Cheadle or whatever the heck is going on?
I mean, really, like, that is the appeal, right, of the franchise. I don't remember exactly when the first film came out, but it's like this just ridiculous hybrid animated movie about, like, basketball and saving the world, right? Isn't that what the premise is?
I believe so. I think the first one came out in like the 90s or something.
Right.
I haven't seen it either. That was one with like Michael Jordan, right?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
yeah, and it's just this ridiculous like hybrid anime, but like those movies have their appeal, you know, and I think the movie will do decently well. I mean, if you're asking us if the movie will be good, I don't think we have any clue about that.
Right.
The trailers look ridiculous. I think in a good way. I don't know about you, but I get tons of YouTube ads nowadays with like what's the Granny? That's her name, right? Granny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I just like I get tons of ads with her just like playing basketball and like I don't know. It looks entertaining, I think. Do you agree?
I think so. I think I want to go see it just because of how just purely entertaining it looks. And I saw that they created like a whole new Looney Tunes character just for Zendaya.
Oh, is that?
I think she's.
No. Oh no. Yeah. So I think because I only know this because I used to watch. There was like this weird time, because you know like the old Looney Tunes, right? Like the cartoons. I didn't watch those, but then they made this weird like rebooted animated thing a few years ago, like 10 or so years ago. I'm not sure if because I know the character's name is Lola.
Yeah, Lola Bunny.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if she was in the old ones, but I do know she was in the rebooted ones, voiced by Kristen Wiig, actually, funnily enough. And I mean, like it was this weird reboot hybrid nostalgia thing where the Bugs Bunny and Daffy are like roommates living in a suburban neighborhood, and they sort of tried to like, yeah, they sort of like tried to make everything quote unquote realistic and stuff, and I don't know. I have huge.
They tried to make gritty Looney Tunes.
I mean, not gritty, but like they were living like Daffy was his roommate, and Porky was like an accountant, and it was very. I don't know. I have huge nostalgia for that reboot series though. But yeah, that's where at least I think that's where Lola is. You can correct us in the comments, but. Yeah, anyways, I think bottom line, we both think the film looks fun, at least. I mean, everyone loves LeBron. We love the Looney Tunes. Zendaya is there, Don Cheadle is there. Sounds like a good time. So yeah. Thank you so much, Four Brothers Films, for that topic. And we're gonna move on to the second topic from you guys, and this is from Superwise, and this is a relatively long one, so buckle in. And he writes, Hugh Jackman recently shared a picture of him and Kevin Feige together on Instagram, seemingly hinting that he might be returning as Wolverine in the MCU. Do you want Hugh Jackman to return as the MCU Wolverine moving forward, or just as a multiverse cameo? I personally think he's going to be a quick cameo in Doctor Strange 2, which would be pretty cool, allowing for a new actor to be the main MCU Wolverine, even though I think Marvel Studios will never cast another on top of Hugh. Hugh's just absolutely iconic and definitive in the role, I agree, although they will eventually, recast him. But and who would you like to cast as the new MCU Wolverine? I personally like the choices of Milo Gibson and Scott Eastwood. That is a great question. So just to provide a little bit of context for you guys, if you guys haven't seen, I'm sure you guys have seen this by now, but I think a few days ago, Richard Donner, the director of the first Superman, he recently passed away. He's a legendary icon in film. And for those of you guys who don't know, his wife, Lauren Schuler Donner, was one of the executive producers, I believe, on the X-Men series. And so there's this, connection there. And Kevin Feige did work on those early X-Men films, as of course did Hugh Jackman. But interestingly enough, and it's sort of unclear about the timing of when, Hugh Jackman was posting these things. Like, was it before Richard Donner passed away? We're not entirely sure. But he reposted a piece of fan art from Boss Logic of him as Wolverine, or at least the claws. And then he posted a picture, just like a random picture of him and Kevin Feige with really no context at all. And obviously the internet, being the internet, is gonna, freak out about that kind of stuff. And so everyone was like, is Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine? So yeah, the first part of that question, I have to get used to Mr. Macchiato. Do you want Jackman to return as the main MC Wolverine moving forward, or just as a multiverse cameo? What do you think about that?
I think Hugh Jackman has done such a great job playing Wolverine for 9 movies or however long the X-Men series was.
Like 20 years, right?
Yeah, over 20 years. And while I don't think his legacy can ever be replaced or anything like that, of course, I think maybe they'll go in a new direction when they reboot him for the MCU. I think a multiverse cameo would be a good idea, like in upcoming Doctor Strange 2 or something like that.
Right.
Just to acknowledge that, hey, this other iconic version of the character did exist, and we're not just gonna replace him without acknowledging that.
I mean, and also it wouldn't take that much effort. Right. I don't think Hugh Jackman would, because he doesn't, I don't think he wants to he's in his 50s. I don't think he wants to really get back into that whole, working out and being the actual Wolverine and all that sort of stuff. But, for Feige to say, hey, can you fly down to our studios and we'll shoot a quick multiverse scene? I think that would be, that'd be fun. And as far as I totally agree. I as far as actual MCU, I just don't see it happening. Also because like we were saying, he is getting older, and it's just I think Marvel wants to obviously make the X-Men their own franchise, and they're going to, they're gonna want to have him, the new actor, be there for as long as possible, and I just don't think Hugh Jackman would be able to play the Wolverine for that long in the MCU. Yeah,
he's too busy being a circus ringmaster.
That's true. I do want to see a Greatest Showman too. If that, please, whoever is running, I think it's Disney now, right? Who owns 20th Century, who made The Greatest Showman. Yeah, Disney, hey, can we please get a Greatest Showman 2?
Please.
Yeah, please, with the guys who did it the first time from La La Land, right? What, Paul and Pasek, is that their names? I think so.
Yep.
And you can throw in some Lin-Manuel as well. Just I would love.
Yeah, just get a rap song going in the middle of one of the circus performances.
Absolutely, in the 1800s, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But that aside, and then he also asked, who would you want to see as the MCU Wolverine? Honestly, for me, I don't know, Macchiato, if you have a person in mind. I always kind of am I don't really ever have anyone in mind for castings, because it's honestly, we'll talk about this with Loki later, but you set your own expectations, and you kind of get attached to them, and then all of a sudden they do something else completely different. You're like, oh, well, okay. So for me personally, I think those two choices that you pointed out, Superwise, Milo Gibson, Scott Eastwood, I think they would be good. They would be great as Wolverine. I think Marvel knows their casting process. And they will pick a good actor. But Macchiato, do you have a person in mind for Wolverine? Or
I am a very, very big fan of Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh yeah.
I know he was a popular fan casting for Moon Knight before.
That's right.
Oscar Isaac was cast, but I think Isaac was a better choice for that role.
I have seen some really sick fan art, pieces of fan art of Daniel Radcliffe. I don't know if you've seen those.
I haven't actually.
Yeah. I think that's a good as good of a choice as any. I'm excited to see where they go, and obviously if they cast Radcliffe, they're going more of the shorter Wolverine, not the 6'3" Hugh Jackman Wolverine.
That is true.
In the comics, yeah. So thank you so much.
I was gonna say also I'm terrible at fan casting. That's not my strength.
We could cast like Clint Eastwood as Wolverine, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Speaking of Scott Eastwood, yeah, we can cast Clint Eastwood. Yeah, thank you guys so much for submitting your topics. We really appreciate that. And again, if you guys want your names on the podcast and your topics, please fill out the Google form. It's in the description. It'll only take you a few seconds. And yeah, so without any further ado, we're going to move on to some of our main topics for today's podcast. And funnily enough, right before we started recording this, I was just, prepping everything, and I went on Twitter, which I know I shouldn't because Black Widow is coming out tomorrow, but I did.
Yeah, shame on you.
Yeah, I know. I probably escaped spoilers very narrowly, but I saw that there was a new What If trailer. So it literally came out just a few minutes ago. And we had a chance to just see it once. We'll talk about it very, very briefly because we want to get to the other stuff. But we'll talk about it just for a second. I always kind of thought the idea of a what if was a very interesting idea. Obviously, if you've been watching my channel, you've seen that I've made my own little what if videos about what if the other half of the MCU got dusted and all that sort of stuff. And so I've always thought that the what if idea was a really fun one, like a really interesting thing to explore. And the fact that they're making it animated too, I think that's a very interesting idea. And yeah, I mean, I saw the trailer. We have a release date, right? It's August 11th, I believe.
Yep.
That's right. And August 11th is a Wednesday, so they are sticking to the Wednesday release for the Marvel shows, which is, I guess it's a good thing. We'll see if and when it overlaps with Hawkeye, what they're gonna do with those release dates. But we'll get to that when that comes. But I thought the trailer was pretty solid. I didn't have a chance to look this up before the podcast, but I'm pretty sure that was not Robert Downey Jr.'s voice, which was an interesting way to open the trailer. And if it was, it sounded very different to me for some reason. But I mean, we saw all sorts of things from the trailer, like Killmonger, I guess, being a good guy, right? Saving Tony from the missile.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. A Killmonger Tony team up. And because Tony doesn't get, because that bomb doesn't explode, does Tony even become Iron Man in this scenario?
It's a really interesting question, right? And I think there was a Funko Pop, though, where Killmonger was holding, like, an Ultron head, which is, I mean, that's fascinating, because if Iron Man never became Iron Man, how do you get Ultron?
Exactly.
Right, so, like, all these sort of possibilities, I think that's a really cool one. Obviously, you have the Doctor Stranges, you have the Star-Lords, T'Challa Star-Lords, you have Peggy Carter, of course. So we've seen a lot of the storylines that they featured in the trailer, but it looks really exciting. Although I have to say, before I turn it over to you, I have to say that one thing I thought was kind of interesting, and I don't know how it's going to play out in the actual show, but I think the animation style is good, and I like it in general. But when I saw the characters talking, and I was thinking specifically of that one shot of Thor when he's just kind of, rambling on about something, and like it's a close up of his face.
Yeah.
For some reason that animation, it
didn't line up well.
Right. I'm glad I'm not the only one, right? Because it looked kind of stilted, and like his mouth was the only thing moving, and like the rest of his face wasn't moving. So I'm not sure if that's going to continue on for the rest of the show. Because guys, I think the action looks fantastic, like when they're moving around and stuff. But when they're talking, I wasn't completely sold. But that's honestly the only thing. I'm super excited. The trailer looks fantastic from our first glimpse. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I agree. I think the animation looked really good. Aside from that, from some of the talking clips. So I'm excited for that. Story-wise, it seems like obviously the Watcher is, presiding over all of these different timelines that are, basically the standard MCU timeline, but with a slight couple variations.
Yeah, the sacred timeline.
Exactly. Hey, Loki. And I previously thought that it was just going to be like an anthology series with kind of every episode is its own thing, like the Twilight Zone or something. But then there's a couple of shots in the trailers that show like Captain Carter and evil Doctor Strange in the same place, or T'Challa Star-Lord and like Thanos Gamora in the same place.
Right.
So I'm wondering if some of these timelines might merge in like the later episodes or something, or somehow maybe it ties into Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and then you get, multiple what if characters teaming up or something like that. I don't know. Did you see any of those shots in the trailer?
I did, and that was one of the things I completely forgot about that, but I did remember seeing the Peggy Carter with was it Doctor Strange, you said?
Yeah, it was kind of like the dark, twisted version of Doctor Strange.
Right. And I mean, we had been talking about What If as sort of this, not random, but this anthology series, like they were presenting it. But then, I mean, all of a sudden, like I heard reports that the sort of the overarching storyline, which I didn't even expect there to be an overarching storyline, would be...
Me neither.
Right. Would be the watcher kind of watching these events and saying, like he says in the trailers, I can't interfere. And then seeing something...
Eternals.
Yeah. Yeah, where were you the whole time? But yeah, like he's saying, I can't interfere, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, wait a second, I gotta interfere, and that's like the merging timelines. I've been saying, and I told Macchiato about this, I've been saying that I don't know if I'm willing to bet, on this, but I'm pretty sure we're gonna get an animated sequence in Doctor Strange 2. I feel like if there ever was a like a chance to have not just a Miss Minute sort of thing, like a fully animated sequence where he's somewhere in the multiverse and maybe in the What If universe, I feel like that would be the place to do it. But yeah, it is really interesting to see, like, is there actually going to be a storyline to this? I don't know. We'll have to find out, right?
Yeah, I am very excited to find out.
Yeah, absolutely.
It makes me look forward to the series more than I was before.
Absolutely. Moving on. So Caramel Macchiato, I have I'll be honest, I haven't seen many of the Fast and Furious movies. I think I've only seen Hobbs and Shaw and maybe parts of other ones. And I thought Hobbs and Shaw was okay. So that was sort of my only impression of the Fast and Furious franchise. But I do know a good deal about at least what's going on in the universe. And just I think a week or so ago, the newest installment to the Fast and Furious franchise, F9, the Fast Saga, is, by the way, is that the official name? Is that what they're actually calling this movie?
Yeah, I think everyone's just calling it F9, but officially it is F9 : the Fast Saga, which is like, what, you can just call it the Fast and Furious franchise. Not everything has to be like an MCU clone, like the Infinity Saga.
The Skywalker Saga. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand. And also, like, if this is the Fast Saga, what is F10? What is F11? Because I heard they're going to stop at 11, which I don't think they're going to stop at 11. But
I don't think they're going to stop at 11 either. Well, I think technically it's going to be 10 part 1 and 10 part 2.
Oh, you're right. That's right.
But
yeah,
maybe they'll go the Endgame route and just make it its own thing.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about where they could go. So, there. I mean, if you haven't seen the trailers, or you don't know, we're gonna be talking about one potentially major-ish spoiler, but it was in one of the trailers, at least, that I saw. So if you don't want to know anything about F9, there will be time codes in the description, and you can jump ahead to other sections. Although, just be warned, the next section we're gonna be talking about Loki, and that will also be full of spoilers. So just kind of jump around wherever you guys want to, where you guys want to head to, because we'll be talking about Black Widow later, completely non-spoiler, obviously, because we haven't seen the film. And so if you don't want to know anything about F9, we're going to be talking about the big spoiler. And for those of you who haven't seen F9, but you guys will know if you've seen it, what the big spoiler is. So this is your, I guess, mini spoiler warning. If you guys don't want to know anything, jump ahead in the time codes. But I'm so curious. I wanted to give Caramel Macchiato his chance to give his sort of mini review about F9, and then we'll talk about them going to space, because that, I mean, we'll talk about that in just a second. But yeah, what did you think about the film overall?
I thought it was fantastic. I loved it. Maybe it's a bit of a popcorn blockbuster where you just go down to the movie theater and just watch some spies shoot guns and drive cars at each other, which is fine. I mean, it's I think this kind of movie is what happens when producers and executives just say yes to anything. They kind of said yes to maybe one too many things, story-wise.
Yeah.
But I love the cars, of course.
Yeah.
Dom's iconic Charger was great. The Chevy Nova, I believe it was, that Letty drives is great.
Yeah, for those of you who don't, well, you guys wouldn't know, but Caramel Macchiato, big fan of cars. He does love his cars. So
Yeah,
this is why we're giving him this platform to talk about F9.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and a chance for me to nerd out. I think John Cena's Shelby GT500 Mustang was fantastic, but criminally underused. I think they should have used it for more scenes instead of just the opening. But yeah, the one thing was they kept referring to this Jacob Toretto, Dom's brother, but for some reason he was never there. Like I couldn't see him in the movie, which was
Oh, really?
kind of strange. Yeah, no, I think they should have picked an actor other than John Cena so that we could actually see the character.
I mean, it was. I mean, they pick like these huge hulking guys who, I mean, generally aren't the best actors, like the Vin Diesels and the Dwayne Johnsons and the John Cenas. But
Yeah.
does he fit at least in the movie? I'm sure he fits pretty well in that cast.
Yeah, he does. He does. It's he and he and Vin Diesel look different enough that it's a little difficult for them to believe that they're brothers like at first. But then they cast two younger actors that actually that simultaneously look a lot like Vin Diesel and John Cena and also like each other, which
Okay. There you
was sometimes like when you cast child actors it's like, okay, really, that child grows up to look like that person. But I think it was very good. And then they're shown in flashback sequences in races with their dad, which I also thought was shot really well.
Right. Well, I mean, of course we're going to a Fast and Furious movie to see character development. Am I right?
Of course.
By the way, how many times do you? I mean, if you could give an estimate, how many times was the word family used in this movie?
5 to 8, probably.
5 to 8. That I feel like that's pretty low for a Fast and Furious movie.
It could be. It was it was used a lot more at the end actually. So it's probably pushing closer 8 to 10.
All right, fair enough.
But
Fair enough.
And another thing they said yes to was I don't think this is a spoiler because it was in the marketing, but the return of Han,
Right.
which I did not expect. They actually did a decent job of making it believable, especially with some of the nonsense that's gone on in other Fast and Furious movies.
Right.
But yeah, it was believable. But I just think that although it was fun to see, it was very fun to see Han. Like his return didn't serve the story. Like it could have been any other character, is what I'm saying.
Right.
There was in the post-credit scene.
Oh, there is a post-credit scene.
There is a post-credit scene where they do set up some tension with Han that does make me excited that he returned, because then there's going to be like a new storyline there, which I think is awesome.
You think that if you go into F9 and you enjoy it, would people generally be interested in an F10? You think?
I think so. Okay. I think it's enjoyable enough that you say, hey, that was exciting. There were a lot of cars. There was a lot of fighting. I'd watch more of that. Also,
yeah.
Cardi B shows up in this movie.
I heard that as like a rumor, and I kind of thought like it must be they must mean like in the marketing, right? Is she actually in the movie?
Yeah. Okay. So there's one scene where Dom and crew.
Yeah. Well, okay. So minor. If you care about Cardi B, I guess minor spoiler alert. But yeah, go ahead.
Spoilers. All right. Yeah. I mean, not major spoilers. They're just Dom and crew are riding in the back of a truck with another crew that they're working with, and Cardi B shows up for one scene, and she says one line, and then that's it for the entire movie. You never see her again, and you're just like left like, wait a minute, is that Cardi B? Did they put Cardi B in this movie? Okay. Anyway,
is she playing herself, or is it? Can you tell if she's playing herself, or is it just some random person?
Well, she was dressed in like riot gear, so I don't think she was playing herself.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, okay, well. Speaking of nonsensical things in this movie, we gotta talk about them finally jumping the shark. Feels like an understatement. Them finally.
I think they jumped the entire ocean.
I think they like literally jumped the planet and they went into space. Couple things I want to know is I mean, obviously, what did you think about that? But then B also, we're talking about sequels. Where the heck do they go from here? Like, what happens now? So
To Neptune. Let's go. Yeah.
Would be
Well,
surprised. Yeah.
I think okay, this is kind of random, but I watch a show called Top Gear, which
yeah.
is probably the best TV show I've ever seen, in my opinion. And in an episode of that show, they build a functioning rocket ship out of a three-wheeled car called a Reliant. And it's like they bring in like real physicists and real engineers to do it, and it works. It like actually like leaves the atmosphere and stuff and comes back down, and it crashes because they forgot to loosen a bolt or something. But anyway, they did it, but they didn't send it to orbit, which and they had to like put so much protective paneling on it. Of course, of course, you don't go into Fast and Furious for realism.
No.
Or anything.
not.
This is very sci-fi at this point. But strapping a gigantic jet engine to a Pontiac Fiero and sending it into orbit without like any rocket ship paneling, like space grade material protection, they send Roman and Tej. Oh, by the way, Roman and Tej are fantastic. They're like my favorite part of the movie.
That's Ludacris and Tyrese, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I heard they were good. Yeah.
They're the best, but they're the two that they send into space in scuba diving suits. Do you know what would happen to astronauts if they were sent into space wearing scuba diving suits?
I'm pretty sure Justin Lin doesn't care about that.
Justin Lin does not care about this. But yeah, so they're in orbit in scuba diving suits in a Pontiac Fiero strapped to a rocket engine, and then they have to intercept a signal from a satellite, which is also in orbit, before it like sends a signal to the glowing green soccer ball of death, which is like the MacGuffin for the movie.
And I mean, and again, minor. If you're listening to this segment, you don't care about spoilers. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
but,
they would have skipped it already.
Yeah, but like we were having this conversation, and you said, because I was like, okay, well they're in space. I mean, okay, whatever. But then my question is, how did they get down? And you, what was your answer to me when I asked you that?
Well, so they show. I did remember after I said, I guess I wasn't paying attention very much because they do they do say that, or like show that a spaceship like brings them back down.
Oh, okay.
Like they send a spaceship to go fetch them. That's
still ridiculous,
but
though.
That is ridiculous. It's better than them not showing it at all.
Yeah, I mean, because
it was at least quick enough or forgettable enough that I didn't really notice. Like I forgot about it after I walked out of the movie. But
right, yeah. So overall, again, because I have my rating system. I don't stick too closely to that. So they're like, you can change your mind literally whenever you want. But on a scale of 0 to 10, where would you put F9?
I think it is, if 10 is like a perfect movie or something.
Yeah, sure. Citizen Kane.
Yeah, exactly. It is a very fun romp in the theater. I'll give it a 6.5. Okay.
And you would recommend, so who would you recommend this movie to then? That's my question.
Well, if you like action movies, if you like, I would say if you like cars, but there are more guns than cars in this movie than in previous Fast and Furiouses. Anyone who's into action movies or racing movies, or anyone who just wants to turn their brain off for 2 hours.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it sounds like a pretty good option for that. So maybe I'll check it out, or maybe what I'll end up doing is just watching the space clip when it comes out on YouTube. That's probably what I'm going to do. Yeah.
There you go. They have some great banter during that sequence, so
there you go. Fun. All right, and that was F9, and now we are going to move into one of the two main topics for today, like the major talking points of today. And the first of which is Loki Episode 5, entitled Journey into Mystery. Now, this is going to be heavy spoilers for Episode 5. So if you haven't seen it, again, there will be time codes in the description. The next segment will be about Black Widow, non-spoiler, just us talking about our predictions and things like that. So if you haven't seen Loki, and if you care about the spoilers, please jump ahead. We don't want to spoil anything for you inadvertently. And And yeah, let's talk about Loki episode 5, Journey into Mystery. So, I mean, obviously, episode 4 was insane. Like, I think for me, even though it wasn't my favorite episode out of the 4, and like even out of all of the previously released Disney Plus episodes of Marvel, it was absolutely, just bar none, it was the most insane thing I've ever seen from Marvel. I think it's pretty safe to say that, especially from the television side, right? And so going into episode 5, I think we were expecting a few things. I think we were all sort of expecting, it's the penultimate episode, and you're setting up this finale, and the big question obviously is, who is running the TVA, right? That is sort of the question that they're hinging the entire show on. And that became even more clear at the end of episode 5. But I was at least expecting we would get a reveal at the end of this episode. At the very least, at the end of it, to be like, hey, I'm the villain. And then you go into episode 6 and you have the fight and whatever. And I think that is basically what they did with WandaVision, right? They did it in I believe episode 7 was Agatha all along. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but... yeah, and because episode 8 was the flashback stuff, and then episode 9 was...
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, episode 7 was the musical.
Right, and
so... then the flashback, yeah.
So I think we all sort of expected to see something, and I mean, again, spoiler alert if you're still here, but we didn't. We didn't see who was in that castle thing at the end of the show. At the end of the episode, I'm sorry. And not that that's disappointing in itself, but... And we'll kind of get into this in just a second, but I think, for me at least for me, it's making me slightly more worried about the finale than I think I would have been originally. And just the fact that I feel like, just as with the other 2 shows, with WandaVision and with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they had too many things they set up in the second to last episode that they just couldn't really pay off cleanly. And I don't think it's similar with this show in that regard, because I think it's pretty clear. I was watching some reviews about the episode, and I think it's pretty clear that they're going with 2 big storylines for the finale. They're going with Loki and Sylvie against, Kang or whoever, and then they're going with Mobius against Ravonna. I think it's pretty clear that there's going to be the A and the B story that are, that's going to finish out the show. Yep. I just worry that it's like they have to spend at least a few minutes sort of building up the suspense, right? And like getting us to the villain in episode 6. And then you have to set up like the conflict, and then you have to like finish out the conflict, and then you have to like finish out the entire show. It just seems like a lot to me. But anyways, that's like episode 6 talk. And we can talk, we will be talking about that in a future episode, obviously. Just quickly, overall thoughts for me on the episode, and I'll turn it over to CM, is... I thought the episode was good. I enjoyed it a lot. Obviously the President Loki scene was awesome. I loved everything about that. I loved Alligator Loki. I am still not 100% on board with Sylvie plus Loki if they're going to be a romantic couple. I think the blanket scene was cute. I think it still reminds me a little too much of Jane and Thor from the first Thor film. And I don't think it's that bad, but I still think it's a little bit stilted and it's a little forced to me. But that just completely could be me. And overall, I thought, obviously, the ending with Richard E. Grant was amazing. I thought he did a great job as classic Loki. And I am still very much excited for the finale. I'm a little more worried, obviously, but I'm very much excited. So those are my overall thoughts. What did you think about the episode?
Thanos Copter is canon. Thanos Copter is canon.
We were going to talk about that, yeah.
That's my biggest takeaway. No.
Okay, good. Moving on to Black Widow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought the episode was fantastic. I actually really like the ending. That like instead of revealing like the villain you get, and like because then obviously that's the big reveal that they've been building up to for the entire season. But then like for the week between episodes 5 and 6, now we get to ponder what the heck is even in that castle at all in the first place. Which
right.
I think is really interesting. I really liked Eliath. I don't know if you've seen... Okay, minor spoilers for Raya and the Last Dragon.
Tread carefully. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just Eliath is a giant purple cloud, and the antagonists from Raya and the Last Dragon are also giant purple clouds. So I feel like Disney has a kind of a giant purple cloud thing going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a thing, right, in comic book movies for a while. I was like, the second I saw Alioth, I was like, oh, what is it? Fantastic Four 2? Was that the one with Galactus and the cloud of that eight planets and stuff?
That's true. That is true, except done properly this time.
Yeah,
Or I think done a lot better.
It had a face this time.
Yeah, exactly. That was nice. And we got to see it devour like school buses and stuff. And I think obviously the VFX, the production design was just top quality.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the scene with Richard E. Grant where he conjures the whole illusion of Asgard. I thought that was incredible, really. Obviously, he's had a lot more experience than our Loki that we've been following. But you know who wasn't taken by Alioth was Kid Loki.
And Gator Loki. We can't forget
about Gator Loki. That's true.
Yeah.
I just say Kid Loki specifically because he was a member of the Young Avengers in the comics, and they're clearly building up to it.
So do you think that we're gonna get Kid Loki back in episode 6 though in any capacity?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. It doesn't seem like much of episode 6 will be spent in the void, which is where he is.
Right.
But maybe just a short bit or like a post-credit scene or something.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see. I think for me, what happens to the actual void once, presumably. I mean, because we know there's going to be season 2, so for all we know, the ending of this season might not have a resolution at all, which would be interesting as well. But I think it would be interesting to see what happens to the actual void at the end of time or whatever. Like, what happens to all those pruned people? Are they just going to chill there for the rest of eternity? If it is Kang, like, what is he doing with all these random people? Mm-hmm. It is interesting. And on that note, I talked about this a little bit in my episode review, but I think at this point there are two, probably like the two theories. I think it's like 45-45 and then 10% something else. And I think the two theories are obviously, one, that the villain behind this is Kang, and two, that this is some version of Loki in some capacity. And I mean, for me personally, I keep going back and forth on this all the time, especially after I saw the episode, because, I mean, everything in this series has been pointing to Kang, and I don't think this is a Mephisto thing. I really don't. Like, I think that they have Kang Tower, in the background of one of the shots. They have Alioth, who is literally, I think, like a rival to Kang in the comics. They've obviously had Ravonna Renslayer. I do believe one iteration of Kang is that he is at the end of time, like feeding off of the energy of the timelines. Like, everything just seems to line up with Kang. On top of the fact that obviously Jonathan Majors is going to be playing him in Ant-Man 3. Then on the other hand, though, it's like, to me as a comic book movie fan, and to you as a comic book movie fan, this makes sense. But to somebody who is not watching the show, very carefully and with the same amount of knowledge that we have, I feel like this random blue, purple, green guy coming out of nowhere is going to be really, I don't know, really weird and jarring. And I feel like the directors and the writers have all been saying, we're talking about identity with this show. Like, this is what this show is about. Loki finding his identity. And I think him being confronted with the most evil version of himself is more fitting with the tone of the series than just this random blue guy. I don't know. What do you think about that? Like, which of the two theories would you bet on if you had to?
I would bet on the alternate / evil Loki theory myself. I think Kang makes a lot of sense. I'm not too familiar with the Kang comics. Is he able to like change his appearance? I assume.
I'm not too familiar either, but I do know that he is Nathaniel Richards, who is some descendant of Reed Richards, and I believe he was like a normal human in some iteration. I also believe he was Iron Lad, which, what a name, by the way.
Iron Lad. It's the Irish version, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he was human, but I could be wrong.
Gotcha, because it could be like Kang, but just in a human form or something. Maybe wearing a TVA outfit. Like, what's up, guys? I'm a TVA agent. But
right.
But no, I'd place my bet on evil or alternate Loki or something. somehow something has happened where he's either become jaded or or he's found a timeline where he just wins every battle or something, and that's the timeline he's trying to preserve, or like wins a final battle or something.
Right, and I think I was talking to you about this the other day. I do think there is a possibility we get both in some capacity, because if we think back to the Avengers, Loki was the villain of that movie, but in terms of the canon and in terms of the post-credit scenes, it was actually Thanos who was pulling the strings the whole time.
That's a good point.
And I do think that there is also a possibility that this evil Loki is somehow being puppeted by Kang. If you haven't seen the video that I made about this, I do think that Kang is being set up as the Loki of Phase 4, in terms of Loki in Phase 1 being the sort of the overarching villain of Phase 1, and then playing a big role in the rest of the MCU going forward. I think that's what's happening with Kang in the MCU Phase 4, 5, and 6. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what we see. And then really quickly before we jump to Black Widow here, I just wanted to ask, what do you think? So what do you think is going to happen at the end of this series? Like, are we going to get a resolution? Is somebody going to die? Do you have any big bold predictions for the finale?
I predict it will be the end of the TVA, regardless of what happens, or like who's in charge of it or whatever.
Right.
I know there's a season 2 coming, but if we have a Loki who's now been introduced to all these different timelines and stuff, and Sylvie as well, there's still a lot to explore in a season 2, even if there's no TVA. I feel like that's what a lot of things have been building up to, like in episode 5 when Mobius steps through the portal and he repeats Loki's lines from episode 1. He's like, I'm gonna burn it to the ground.
Oh, that's right.
Things like that, which I thought was great. I love Mobius. I'm glad he's back.
Yeah.
I want to hear him say "wow" in the finale. That's what I'm hoping for.
I actually heard the director confirmed he's not going to. Which
no,
that's exactly what I said. I think the how that we got in episode 4, was it? Yeah, episode 4. I think that's as close as we're getting.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Yeah, yeah. We're not gonna watch the finale anymore. Sorry, guys. Yeah.
No more finale if there's no Owen Wilson. Wow. Yes, that's a prediction of mine. What do you think will be the fates of like the TVA agents though? Do you think they'll be able to go back to their previous lives, like Mobius or something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Mobius is getting his jet ski, right? I think
absolutely
they've set that up so much and so well that I can't see the series for Mobius ending up any other way than him on a jet ski somehow. And
absolutely.
And that leads me to believe that there will be some sort of restoration. Although, I mean, we've heard that Loki is going to have some big ramifications for the MCU going forward. And we all talked about WandaVision. Like, Wanda's going to open up the multiverse, and Wanda's going to do this, and Wanda's going to do that. And it turned out she didn't do anything. And so, maybe it's a fool me once, shame on me kind of thing. But I do think there will be some huge thing that happens at the end of this show. Like, it's not going to just be the TVA is wiped out nice and clean, and then Loki can go on his adventures with Sylvie and Mobius. Like, I think there will be some catastrophic multiversal event that happens at the end of this show.
Yeah.
And that will sort of lead into what happens with the rest of the MCU. And also Loki season 2. And I think that with the TVA agents, I feel like that will be part of the fun of the season 2 of like dealing with how do we, like, oh, you guys all realize who you are now, and then like how do we fix this? Like, how do we get you back to your timelines? Like all that sort of stuff. That's just a completely wild.
I think if my theory was correct that the TVA is going to be gone, it would have colossal ramifications for at the very least season 2, if not things like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse Madness, and I don't know if Loki's going to be in Love and Thunder or something with Thor. Something like that.
Suffice it to say, we've loved the show so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we are so excited for season 2. I personally thought episode 3 was pretty weak, and it was a little disappointing to me. But we're so excited for the finale, and we can't wait. We can't wait for that, and we can't wait
Yeah.
to hear.
Now here we come.
Can't speak. Hear what you guys think about the finale as well next week. And speaking about exciting things, we are heading back to the theaters to watch an MCU movie tomorrow for the first time in, can you believe this, over 2 years. It's been 2 years since we've seen an MCU movie on the big screen. Like, that is
2 long years.
It really, really has.
That is a name I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah, Marvel Studios, who?
Marvel Studios, yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, we are going to we're recording this on Thursday morning. We have not seen Black Widow, and we are going to tomorrow. And of course, we'll talk about it more in another episode. But we are, I think for me, you know, in terms of are we excited? Like for me, I don't think, and I think I can speak for both of us in that Black Widow was not like our most anticipated phase 4, phase 5 project by a long shot, right? I don't think, you know, we have other things that we're really excited for, and we'll talk about that in the Q&A in a little bit. But that being said, I think there is just something really exciting about going back to a theater, not just to a theater, but, you know, to a theater to see an MCU movie and to really feel like the MCU has finally come back and like really come back. And I think that's super exciting. Exciting for both of us. And so before we get into theories and predictions and things like that, I wanted to get into a question that I was thinking about. And I think a lot of reviewers have been talking about this as well. A lot of even the positive reviews for Black Widow that I've seen have been saying it's good, but it was not released at the right time. It was some 5 years too late. Like, it should have been released in 16 or 17. And I want to know your thoughts. Do we think this was the right time? Like, given no restrictions and you can place it wherever you want, should we have released a Black Widow, you know, after Spider-Man Far From Home? What do you think?
I think it would have been a fine idea if she wasn't dead. I think the biggest thing is that she's dead, or like the character of Natasha Romanoff had, I think, a very emotional send off in Endgame, and now it's like, oh, never mind, she's back. I think if she was still alive, it would have been still maybe a little later than they should have made it. But I know Marvel had issues with people like Perlmutter and stuff that didn't want things like that. So I'm still excited for it, of course. I think as if it seems like a much more grounded spy thriller, Winter Soldier kind of, even James Bond a little bit maybe, which is very exciting. I think especially after such huge cosmic things like WandaVision and Loki and things like that. I am excited for it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, anything in particular that you're looking forward to? Is there a specific car that you've seen? I haven't paid attention to that. No, but anything in particular?
Well, I'm very interested in like the family dynamic of the Red Room, like Widow characters, like Natasha, Yelena, Melina, Red Guardian, who I cannot remember the actual name of, other than David Harbour.
Now that you mention it, I actually have no idea what his name is. What is his name? Someone in the comments, please tell it. What's his name? But anyways, Red Guardian. And I can hear Macchiato's looking it up right now.
Yeah, I'm Googling it.
Is it Shostakov? Am I hearing? Like,
oh, no, it's Jim Hopper. It's Jim Hopper.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jim Hopper. Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. Yeah. It's Alexei Shostakov.
So it was, okay. So Alexei Shostakov. Okay. Well, there you go.
I'm just gonna call him Jim Hopper. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So I'm interested in that family dynamic, and especially how like Natasha and Yelena's relationship is going to be, because obviously we've never seen Yelena before, even though they're setting her up as a big part of Natasha's life growing up in the Red Room kind of thing. I'm also excited to see Taskmaster. I think it's a very cool villain concept. I think the costume is not as cool as it is in the comics, but I know skull imagery is a no-no in China, where they've got to make big bucks. So I understand why that has to happen, but still think it's a very, very cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about Taskmaster in just a second.
Yeah, for sure.
I haven't heard anybody, unfortunately, who has been all that enthused about who Taskmaster ended up being from reviews that I've read. So, I mean, we're going to temper our expectations, or we're going to leave, obviously, like I've been preaching on this channel, like we're going to leave our expectations at the door, and we're going to go in and take it for what it is. I sincerely hope it's not a Trevor Slattery situation, but I'm going to prepare for the worst. And hope for something good. You know, I think that with these big reveals, going back to Loki, there's always the possibility that you're going to be disappointed if you kind of go in with your own preconceived notions of like, who is this person going to be and who is that person going to be. So, I mean, for what it's worth, you know, if it's disappointing, it's disappointing. We'll move on. Life goes on. Obviously, Pietro and Ralph, as an example. Yeah, let's hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I think that there is definitely a lot to be excited about, and so I think I wanted to close out this segment by just sort of talking about some theories, because I think that there are a lot of things that we've heard, obviously, and we'll just throw out some wild theories and see what sticks, and you can come back at us next week and say you were wrong about everything, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is confirmed, but I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus basically confirmed that she will be in Black Widow, or at least somebody did. And she obviously played Val in Falcon and Winter Soldier, one of my least favorite parts of it, unfortunately. I thought she was very strange. But she will be a big part of the MCU moving forward, in the Thunderbolts, the Dark Avengers, or whoever she's really, you know, whatever her real agenda is. And I think we have to assume that it's related to Yelena, but also I think it could just as easily be related to Red Guardian as well. I mean, he seems a little bit more of like the anti-hero than Yelena does. I think Yelena strikes me more as a protagonist figure going forward in the MCU. So to put her on the member of the Dark Avengers next to freaking John Walker, which, I mean, John Walker speaks for himself, I think it would be an interesting move. So I think personally it'll still be Yelena that she's trying to recruit at the end of the movie. But honestly, I have no idea. Do you have any guesses about that?
I think they're setting up Yelena to kind of carry on the torch from Natasha going forward.
Right.
So I don't know if she'll be recruited for Val's team. Which she could be, of course. I could be completely wrong. I also think it's interesting that both Val and Thunderbolt Ross are going to be in this movie, who are both trying to put together
That's
teams.
Right. I completely forgot about Thunderbolt Ross being in this movie. I haven't seen a trailer for this movie in a long while. I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
So this movie may or may not confirm whether they're in cahoots or they're setting up rival teams. Ross and Val, I mean.
Right. And we have the Abomination coming back very soon as
true.
well.
Yep. That Shang-Chi trailer really surprised us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I have a theory that Red Guardian may die.
Yeah.
He may give us a heroic sacrifice or something. Just because I don't think he's Taskmaster, and he isn't in Endgame. Well, obviously, because this is coming out after Endgame, but it takes place beforehand. Yeah,
he's also he is a little he is not the right physique to be Taskmaster based on what we've seen.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, Yelena was also not in Endgame either, and all that sort of stuff. But
that is true.
And the whole I believe the whole vest thing, right? The vest that Natasha's wearing in Infinity War was Yelena's vest or something. So there's going to be some interesting handoff there. I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen with that. But I totally forgot about Thunderbolt Ross for a second, and it will be very interesting. A lot of people, even those who haven't liked the movie from what I've seen in reviews, have said that it does set up a lot of things for the future of the MCU, and I'm interested to see what's going on there. By the way, do you have a prediction for what the post-credit scenes could be for this movie?
Well, every time there's some Thunderbolts connection, like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or what was the last one? Ant-Man and the Wasp or something. I'm like, oh, it's
Yeah.
gonna be Thunderbolts. Ross is gonna come and recruit them, and then it
Yeah.
never happens. So
That's
I
true.
think Taskmaster or Yelena
Mm-hmm.
would be potential recruits for Ross and or Val. But in lieu of being wrong for a third time, I'm gonna say that's not the post-credit scene, and it's gonna be with something with Taskmaster.
The general pattern has been, set up one of the post-credit scenes will set up the next sequel, like directly relating to the movie we just saw. And then one of them is going to be something completely separate. I think the best example was Doctor Strange. You had the yeah, it was Thor, right? Thor Ragnarok
Yeah,
was one of
Thor.
them, and then the last one was Mordo. So it was like one sets up the universe, one sets up the next movie. And
Yeah.
I mean, I think I don't see any reason why they would deviate from that pattern. I think even WandaVision did that, right? One was Captain Marvel, the Marvels, right, with Monica
Yeah,
Rambeau going
Monica.
to
Yeah.
space, and then one was Scarlet Witch, like her continuation.
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Taskmaster is definitely a good theory. I think also maybe something to do with Yelena. I have a suspicion. We talked about this briefly off air, but off air that sounds very professional. It's not. We talked about the Shang-Chi trailer and what's going on with Wong and Abomination and like why are these MCU characters in this ring? And we talked about, well, maybe there's this sort of cage match of like different factions of the world trying to fight for the Ten Rings, and the Avengers send in somebody, and like the Master of the Mystic Arts sends in somebody, Thunderbolt Ross sends in Abomination, and we were talking about the representative for the Avengers. While I don't necessarily think that Yelena will be a part of the Avengers, I actually wouldn't be surprised to see her in the cage fight either. I don't have anything to back that up. I just think that like with people saying Yelena is going to be such a big part of the MCU moving forward, I feel like she's going to be popping up in all sorts of places. Like she's going to be popping up in just a couple of months actually with Hawkeye, right? That's been
Yep.
confirmed.
That's true.
And so, that's just a wild and random theory. Take that for what you will.
Yeah.
But another thing that I was really interested in, and I don't think anybody's really been talking about this, even though I feel like people should be, is obviously we're going back to Budapest, and I think in present day and in flashbacks, or maybe just in flashbacks, I'm not entirely sure. And that's been obviously a big talking point for Natasha Romanoff throughout her character's journey in the MCU. And obviously, a character that has been very closely linked with that incident is none other than Clint Barton, who is Hawkeye. And I want to ask an over under. Like give me over under what percentage that this will happen. Are you gonna give it? I would even put it as high as 67%, 2/3.
Okay.
Over under 67% that Clint Barton Hawkeye is in this movie.
Over.
How much over do you think?
I'd give it 3/4, 75%.
75%.
Yeah.
Because I think it makes too much sense, right?
Yeah, I agree, and especially because we're returning to Budapest, and obviously feels like a very intentional choice on the part of Marvel, given the line from what was it, the Avengers? It's like Budapest all over again. Yeah.
And also Endgame, right?
Oh, do they represent Endgame too?
Yeah, when they were flying to Vormir, he was like, "This is a long way," or from
Oh
Budapest,
yeah,
or
from
something like
Budapest.
that.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I do think he'll show up, whether it's in flashbacks or just present day. I'm not sure, or flip that around. Whether it's in present day or just in flashbacks, I'm not sure.
Well,
But
and what's interesting about this movie's placement in the timeline is that it takes place after Civil War, so literally anybody could show up. Like and honestly, for some of these bigger actors, it would make sense for them to show. I think it doesn't quite make as much sense for Iron Man to show up just because she just betrayed him in those events.
exactly.
But I think that so I'll give you another over under, let's say 20% that Steve Rogers shows up at the end of the movie.
I'd say a little bit over. I'd say maybe a third. I'll say a third. I think maybe Steve and Sam, or because it was like the three of them on the run, basically, right?
Right.
between Civil War and Infinity War. Steve Sam. Nah.
Right, and I mean, just in terms of continuity, I feel like it makes. I mean, it makes sense one way, and it makes sense. It also makes sense if they don't do it. I think we talked a lot about this with WandaVision and Doctor Strange. Like we all thought it would make the most sense if Doctor Strange showed up because it's a hex and it's like what's going on here, and he didn't actually end up showing up, which was fine. It was totally fine.
It was planned to. He was planned to.
He was planned to, but not in the capacity that we thought. It was supposed to be more just like a, hey Wanda, like in the commercials, what's up, what's going on.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I think it makes perfect narrative sense if Steve Rogers shows up at the end and he's like, Natasha, we know you're on the run, like you want to come with us. But I also think Chris Evans is done probably for a while at least with the MCU. Yeah. I mean we supposedly think he's coming back, which may or may not happen. I happen to think it's a Skrull thing with Secret Invasion. But it wouldn't. Again, like they might have to pay him a lot of money, obviously, because it's Chris Evans. But also, it wouldn't have taken that long it would have taken like a day of filming to just have him there in his nomad outfit or whatever, and be like, "Hey, what's up? Let's go on the run."
Yeah.
So
it could be since Anthony Mackie's obviously still around, it could just be Sam showing up and be like, "Hey, come with us." Oh, by the way, Steve's here too.
That's off camera. Yeah, we can pay
exactly.
Him off
He's
camera.
In the bathroom.
Yeah, we were at like a 7-Eleven. Like Steve's getting snacks.
Yeah.
Want to come with? Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. I would put more money on Sam being in the show or being in the movie. That makes sense. And the final thing, obviously, like a big question is who is Taskmaster? I'm gonna flip it over to you first. Who you got? Like who would you, if you had to bet money on this? Who do you think is the real identity of the Taskmaster? Okay,
I have a couple thoughts.
All right.
I'll list them quickly from most exciting to most disappointing, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. Sure.
So most exciting, I think, is Melina, kind of the mother figure. I think she would be a great fit, and a great twist as well, because she's someone that Natasha is close to and trusts and stuff.
Yep.
And I think she's extremely capable, and capable enough to learn all the Black Panther, Captain America moves that Taskmaster's shown doing.
Yep.
Then I don't think Red Guardian's even in the picture.
He wouldn't fit in the suit.
Yeah, exactly. Slightly more disappointing. That love interest guy that they keep putting on all the posters, even though he hasn't been in any of the trailers.
See, who? Like, why? I've seen character posters for this guy, and I'm like, who?
Like, who? Why is he on all the posters? If that's the only reason I can think of it, if he would be that important, is if he is Taskmaster, which I think, if he's done well, we don't know anything about him because he's not in any of the trailers. So if he's a character done well, that could also be a very good reveal, I think.
Absolutely,
even if it's not Melina. But we obviously know less about that. And then most disappointing would be someone we don't know, like Tony Masters from the comics, and he takes off the mask and it's just some guy. Like Enfys Nest from Solo or something.
It's Trevor Slattery.
Yeah, or what I was thinking, if they're really going the Trevor Slattery route, it's like an android or a robot or something that someone programmed to learn all the moves.
I was thinking about that. Like, what if it's just a mech or something?
Yeah, I think that's on my most disappointing end. I feel like that's very Trevor Slattery.
That would suck. Yeah,
it would. Maybe like the love interest guy is like the IT guy, and he's a huge nerd, and he just programmed this robot to do these things.
If we're right about this, we have not seen this movie, and trust me, we wouldn't want to see these things happen. But there is a chance we're right about these things, so we'll have to come back to this later. But yeah, I think just hearing what everyone's been saying about this movie. I mean, people generally like it. It has like an 84 or 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very good, obviously. We expect nothing less from the MCU at this point.
Yeah.
But, the consistent thing has been Taskmaster. It's ranged from, okay, pretty good to vastly disappointing. So, we have our theories. I think Melina's the most, well, I wouldn't say the most likely. I think Melina is like you said, the best option out of those ones. We also have seen that random Russian dude in the trailers who's like talking to Taskmaster. He's probably the big villain or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's true.
like
Drake,
I think his name
Dreykov or whatever?
Dreykov. Yeah, Dreykov.
Yeah.
He's probably like the mastermind or whatever behind the Red Room. Yeah, but whoever's actually in the suit, if it's anybody, I actually don't think it's that unlikely that it's that IT guy who programmed Taskmaster. I don't think it's I would put that honestly as the most likely out of the three. Just
But
knowing
also
that,
the most Iron Man 3 out of the 3.
yeah, something in me is saying like Kevin Feige kind of just wanted to be like, hey guys, look at this, and we're all like, oh,
Oh, yeah. We don't want to
Yeah,
look at that anymore.
yeah, I just think the concept of the character is so cool. We see footage of him watching Iron Man 2 fights and like studying, and if it's like actually a real person in there, which I hope, it's just such a cool concept of someone with photographic memory and like reflexes and like being able to copy the Black Panther and Captain America and all that, and like even
Yeah.
Spider-Man poses and stuff. So I
And that's
we're
what made him such like a formidable villain in the comics, was that he was able to just like, oh, you did that move, I'm going to do that move right back at you, kind of thing.
right. Yeah, so we'll have to see. But again, like we said at the top of the segment, we are both extremely excited to be back in the theaters to watch an MCU movie. It is going to be a blast, I think. And regardless of how good or how bad we think the movie is, I because we'll have our rankings and stuff later and all that sort of stuff. But I think it'll just be good to sit down and the TV I think has been awesome, the television. But there is also something to be said about watching a feature length film from Marvel. So I'm super excited. I know you are as well, and yeah, we'll let you guys know what we think about it in a week. And that'll be that. All right, and now we are going to move into our last segment of the podcast, and this is going back to that Google form that we sent out on the YouTube channel. Again, in the description down below, in the probably linked in the comments as well. If you guys want to submit a topic like we talked about earlier with the main topics, then you guys can feel free to do so. But on the same form as well, we are going to be taking some just random questions and answers. And that's the place where you can just put literally any question relating to movies or, potentially anything else, as long as it's within reason. Like, please don't ask us things like where we live or our social security numbers. Please don't do that. But yeah, so I think, anyways, without further ado, let's answer some random questions. So again, if you guys want to have your name shouted out, and you guys want to enter a question in there, then by all means, and we would be happy to take questions. And also, you guys can fill out the form as much as you want. There's no limit to it or anything. And so with that being said, let's get into these questions. So Four Brothers Film asks, what is your favorite era of Disney and your favorite Disney movie overall? I'm gonna kick it to you first. I'm very curious actually to hear your answer for this.
Okay, this is probably going to be your answer too, but the Disney Renaissance is so good. That's
Chef's kiss.
Chef's kiss, exactly. For anyone that doesn't know, that's the period of Disney movies from like 1989 or something to 2000, which is like most of like a lot of their big movies, like The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Pocahontas, Mulan, or my favorite, The Lion King. In that era, at least, I think they just did so much cool stuff that just kind of shook the animation industry, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, favorite Disney movie overall? The Emperor's New Groove. Nothing will ever be as good as The Emperor's New Groove.
No, seriously though, it is so underrated.
It is criminally
so
underrated.
It's so good. Oh,
And
I love that.
I wish they were turning Splash Mountain into The Emperor's New Groove instead of Princess and the Frog. I love Princess and the Frog. Great movie.
Oh, you mean the waterfall scene, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because then it could be like pull the lever, Kronk, and then you go
Yeah.
down Splash Mountain, and then at the bottom it's like wrong lever.
Oh, they should hire us. They really should hire us.
They should. We're Imagineers
Dang.
now.
That's a really good idea. I love that movie. Like seriously, I watched that so many times.
Yeah, that's great. It's hand carved mahogany. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
How about you?
Are we counting Pixar into this though? Because that's a completely different question. I feel like.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about Pixar.
So if it's just if it's just like Disney proper, I I would have to go with the live action remake era. You know, it's my abs. No, I can't. I wouldn't.
I was gonna say, okay, I'm leaving the podcast now.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, I have been on the record of saying I do enjoy those films more than most people. Mulan notwithstanding, I hated that movie. But yeah, no, if it's just Disney proper, then I would have to agree. But again, for me, I've been on record of saying I'm also a Pixar kid.
Me too.
Yeah, so like the 2000 to 2010 where they had Pixar, like that for me, if we're counting that, and if we're not, you know, I would totally agree with CM, but definitely the Pixar era. In terms of my favorite, I liked Aladdin a lot though. I did like Aladdin, so that might. But I don't have a strong leaning towards any of them really, because again, I was Pixar, and everyone, not everyone, but everyone who knows me well, knows that Inside Out is my favorite Pixar movie. So. Yeah, I'll give you the two cop-out answers. How about that? AQ asks us, are you more excited for Spider-Man No Way Home or Black Widow? Let's say it on the count of 3, because it's the same answer. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Spider-Man
No Way Home. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. We're excited for Black Widow, but you and I love the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. Like
they're some of my favorite MCU movies.
Yeah, we love those films, and just with how crazy this third film looks, we're just so excited for it. So it's Spider-Man No Way Home. And finally, the last question, also from AQ, when would you want the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer to release? So I'm gonna
release it now. I want it now.
We all thought that it was gonna release this week. Like I was planning in my podcast notes that we would have a segment about the trailer. It obviously didn't come. We got a what if trailer instead today. But I'm gonna tweak the question a little bit actually, because I obviously we want it as soon as possible. But I'm gonna twist the question and say, when do we think the first No Way Home teaser is gonna come out? Because I thought it was the perfect time with Black Widow coming out this Friday to release the No Way Home trailer and have it play in front of the movie. Obviously they didn't do that. So I mean, what are we thinking? Like, when do we think this No Way Home trailer is coming out? What do you think?
I think if they were going to have it play in front of Black Widow, they would have had to release it at least a week ago or something.
Right.
Because if they release it now it's just going to take attention away from Black Widow.
Right.
And take attention away from the Loki finale and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, we still have a solid, 6 months until the movie comes out. So
yeah,
I think,
about 5 months.
Yeah. So I think maybe third week of July would be my bet.
I don't
give some time for Black Widow to because I think the No Way Home trailer is going to break the bank with like how much attention it gets.
Yeah.
Just because of how much it's been hyped up with like, hey, Toby and Andrew might be in it too and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where my bet would be.
We've talked about this question as well. Like, do we think they're gonna reveal Toby and Andrew not just in the trailer, like the first trailer, but at all? Do we think they're gonna reveal that at all?
I think they will reveal something about the multiverse in the trailer, and then leave it to our imaginations to speculate. Or like something about Doctor Strange. I don't think they'll reveal Toby and Andrew themselves, but they'll give us enough hints to get us to theorize about if they'll show up or how they could show up or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it that would literally break the internet, even though, a lot of us have been suspecting that they would be there. At the same time, they would want to keep it a secret from most people who haven't been paying attention. But also, if we remember back to Spider-Man Homecoming, they basically gave away the whole movie except for the Vulture twist in one trailer. Good job, Sony. They also did that for The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I believe. So they fixed it with Far From Home, thankfully. But
everyone saw the Mysterio twist coming because it's Mysterio. So.
Right. So it wasn't like they had much to spoil anyways, but still, they don't have the best track record. I thought the Venom trailer looks great. The Morbius trailer looks great. So, I mean, and if Feige has learned his lesson from the Homecoming thing, he is probably working with the marketing team to be like, hey, maybe not that thing. Like, don't put Toby in the trailer, please.
Yeah.
By the way, did you hear I think somebody asked him on the red carpet of Black Widow about Alfred Molina and how he basically revealed everything about his character in No Way Home. And Kevin Feige was just kind of like, hey, people like to talk. He's like, you just give somebody a microphone, he's gonna talk. And I was like, yeah, Tom Holland, Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Ruffalo. Everybody dies in Infinity War, guys.
Yeah, it's like everybody dies.
Oh wait, that's worse.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think it'll be coming soon, but yeah, we'll have to see about that. And with that, guys, that will wrap up episode 4 of Access Blockbusters Pod. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We would appreciate some feedback because this is the first episode we're doing. I'm doing with a co-host. So thank you again. Was it Caramel Macchiato? Is that what we agreed on?
Yes, you can address me as Mr. Macchiato.
Mr. Macchiato.
Address my fan mail that I'm sure I will have after this episode.
Yes, yeah. Feel free to email us at accessblockbusters@gmail.com and address Caramel Macchiato, and I will be sure to not forward those emails to him. Thank you guys so much again, though. Like it really does mean a lot. Your support for this channel, this podcast, and we're super excited. Caramel Macchiato, he may not be here every week, just depending on his availability, but yeah, we hope you'll stick around for the summer. We'll be doing weekly podcasts and all that glorious stuff in relation to Loki. And because Caramel Macchiato has not been on YouTube before, I decided to give him the privilege, I guess, to give all the shameless plugs. So go for it. Do your worst.
Okay, everybody go unfollow Access Blockbusters on YouTube.
No, okay. No. We're no.
No, I'm kidding. Subscribe to Access Blockbusters on YouTube. Yeah, that's really what I wanted to say.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, so thank you guys again so much for watching. Please give us some feedback, but please be nice because we're sensitive. And yeah, that's gonna do it for this episode of the podcast. And it'll be on the YouTube channel, and it should be on Spotify as well pretty soon. And that'll about do it for us, guys. So again, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.
Bye.